The king of all curses, Ryomen Sukuna versus every One Punch Man monster, the definitive strongest character in the Jujutsu Kaisen verse, going up against One Punch Man's most vicious and cruel creatures. Honestly, despite wanting to do this type of matchup when eventually Season 3 would drop, the many overwhelming suggestions forced me to pick up my pen, bring up my A game to deliver this immediately. So in this video, we'll assume that curses are just monsters from one of these infinite possibilities, having Sukuna chasing after Orochi for calling himself the king of all monsters, needing to tangle with many creatures in the process. We'd obviously have to use Sukuna in his two separate states, the one who got defeated at the end of the series, and the one who fought against Gojo having access to the 10 Shadow Curse technique. We'll make sure to have a fair assessment on figuring out what threat level would he be falling at and how strong he really is compared to the One Punch Man verse. And without further ado, let's just get to the video. The king of all curses, Ryomen Sukuna, is certainly the strongest character in the Jujutsu Kaisen verse, who's willing to put everything on the line fighting an opponent who had a legitimate similar claim, and not only did he defeat him, but went on to fight 90% of the prominent relevant characters in the series all by himself. Clearly a character that looked invincible no matter what situation he is painted against. But when talking about his overall stats, it's very important to establish the multiple metas regarding his strength no matter how ridiculous they would seem. Logically speaking, Ryomen Sukuna should only be city level in terms of attack potency at best for scaling to Jogo's maximum meteor that Sukuna himself admitted he would have been damaged by. Some would argue that he was heavily nerfed since he was only at like 15 fingers worth of strength, but how much power he would have gained at like full strength is sadly unknown. In fact, this is what I believe realistically the Jujutsu Kaisen verse should fall at, and anything above that doesn't have any legs to stand on. Simply putting Sukuna in like island level of strength for obviously being on a completely different realm than characters like Dagon, who created an island using his domain expansion, is completely absurd and has so many holes. Like, how would Sukuna be hurt by a large town level attack performed by a mountain level character who narratively is stronger than an island level curse? This and many other issues states very directly that creation feats in this matter shouldn't equate attack potency or destructive capacity. However, if you feel like we should be generous, putting Sukuna at island level only for the sake of this video, or maybe because of comparing him to Gojo's high-end calc of causing a 4.5 magnitude earthquake that generated around 4.2 gigatons of TNT, then that I guess should be fine. Which brings us to the last meta of scaling the higher dimensional beams such as Gojo, Sukuna, and Yuki to being planetary. This huge wank obviously comes from Yuki Tsukumo's black hole that nobody in the verse should technically scale to, alongside the hyperbolic statement of Sukuna being able to destroy the world. Logically speaking, if Sukuna can be hurt by a number of things that are far from being planetary, then this line of scaling should be completely absurd. However, we'll still make sure to include this huge wank by the end of the video. Now, things gets even more absurd when talking about speed in the Jujutsu Kaisen world. You see, if you are one of these people that thinks the level of speed or strength given by the author should trump things such as pixel scalings and interpretations of certain feats, then the whole Jujutsu Kaisen verse would sadly cap at Mach 3 levels of speed or slightly above. However, Cax on the other hand indicates a very different story, with multiple feats such as Sukuna blitzing Chose's piercing blood that should put him at the ranges of hypersonic to hypersonic plus levels of speed. In fact, I feel like this should realistically be the level of speed of the comparatively higher tier characters in the series, since the remaining two metas that would upscale the verse considerably are highly questionable and in times downright unreasonable. Many people in the community often think that the Jujutsu Kaisen verse should at least be massively hypersonic plus for a very questionable panel of Hakari dodging lightning at some extent. Kashimo could have simply targeted Hakari's arm from the get-go, especially considering the fact that Kashimo's lightning strokes are narratively explained to being impossible to dodge. Some people people try to substantiate this feat with using Toji seemingly reacting to Noe's lightning, but that's only an anime scene and they tend to over-exaggerate a lot of feats compared to its manga's counterpart. The other questionable feat, funny enough, also comes from Kashimo's electromagnetic waves that Sukuna was able to dodge. But as you can see, upon seeing these sparks in Kashimo's hand, Sukuna only had to move a few inches away before the attack ignited, meaning he didn't really dodge a light speed attack, but merely dodged before it was activated. But regardless of these clear contradictions, we'd still be including these metas in this video. Now that we have gone over Sukuna's general stats, let's take a look at his hacks and abilities. The obvious elephant in the room would be his Malevolent Shrine domain expansion. Considerably enhances his stats and curse techniques outputs that would be landing passively inside a range of 200 meters. A series of sure hit attacks that cannot be avoided as long as his domain expansion is still functional within that reach. He also has access to a fire type attack called Divine Flame that seems to be something he uses when aiming for more destructiveness than usual, alongside his busted word slash that can seemingly bypass durability. Not to mention his proficiency in using reverse curse technique to basically regenerate any lost limb instantly. And with all of this being said, how would he fare up against the One Punch Man monsters? The One Punch Man manga does a remarkably good job at displaying the differences in strength between a monster and another. Levels are established and well regarded by the Hero Association that even the monsters themselves take pride knowing they are placed in a strong category. And unlike the heroes rankings, in most cases, a demon, if not misplaced, cannot contend with a dragon level monster, with minor exceptions such as Homeless Emperor, who could theoretically be killed by anyone if he lets his guard down. Beefcake, aka Maroguri, can technically defeat dragon level monsters despite being placed at demon level in the databook, but that only since the Hero Association didn't update his threat level as stated by Murata himself. Now, as I stated in my previous videos, it's very well known that the cities in One Punch Man are much larger than normal cities in the real world. Creates a big misconception in the community thinking that someone like the Deep Sea King, a demon level monster, can exert at least island to country level of energy in terms of attack potency, all because of the threat level definition. Strictly speaking, it was never stated that a demon can straight up destroy a city, but rather just becomes a threat to its own existence. Cities are obviously stacked with civilians who are always threatened by monsters, and monsters in general specialize in something specific that makes them a threat to a city, whether it's destructiveness, hacks, abilities, or something entirely else. Take Awakened Cockroach, for example, being a threat to a city by being capable of decapitating most of its inhabitants in a matter of minutes, or Cosmic Figaro being a god-level threat just by emitting radiations capable of bringing a global extinction. So this notion of having to possess destructive power equal to a city being the only requirement to be placed in that category is baseless and just completely false. With that being said, demons and dragons make up a staggering large percentage of monsters in the series. We clearly wouldn't be including wolves or tigers in this equation since they're obviously just too weak to be mentioned in this video. You see, to provide a viable level for a general sense of scaling, someone like the Deep Sea King should be on the city to large city levels in terms of attack potency. This is obviously without accounting for Murata's reply in his own tweets indicating that Genos did indeed destroy a mountain when he leveled up the House of Evolution's hideout, a precedent that happened way back in chapter 6. Since characters who are stronger than Genos at that time has never replicated that kind of feat, concluding this whole thing as an outlier needing future evidence to back it up. However, since the Deep Sea King scales above early season 1's Puri Puri prisoner, who is much stronger than a multi-city block level being, paired with him tanking Genos' firepower that was calced at large town to city level in terms of attack potency, then he should be placed at city level in terms of attack potency and overall durability. And since the Deep Deep Sea King is considered to be in the mid-tiers of the demon level threats, then characters such as Bug God should certainly be much stronger. Dragon level monsters, on the other hand, varies drastically from one to another. You've got characters that can spam large city level attacks endlessly, with Homeless Emperor displaying around 2.4 to 4.8 gigatons of energy that puts him around mountain to island level in terms of destructive capacity. And since executives are basically chosen because of their destructiveness, most of them should be relative to Homeless Emperor's basic projectiles, but should be on a similar tier as someone like Carnage Kabuto, who scales above Transformed Vaccine Man. These are still certainly considered a less of a threat compared to the high tier monsters such as Orochi, Platinum S, and Psycho Orochi, as this chick's casual attacks splitted a continent in two easily. Platinum and Golden S's merger should put him at country level by the very least, and Orochi's Gaia Cannon displayed around 5,000 exatons of energy, placing him in the small planet level range in terms of destructive capacity, which means that mountain to small planet level should be viable for a general sense of scaling dragons in the series. Now, when talking about speed in general, demon level monsters such as the Deep Sea King has been literally moving around and reacting at massively hypersonic speeds, with the Awakened Cockroach claiming to have the synapses or the precognition skill to react faster than light. Someone like G5, who is also a demon level monster, matched with the somehow not holding back but not that serious Atomic Samurai in terms of movement speed, but assumably lost due to precision and superiority in samurai skills. Janos, who is also considered to be on the demon level tier, was able to dodge lasers that were confirmed to have the properties of light. However, it's up to you to choose which meta you want to take. Either demon level monsters can move and react at like faster than light speeds, or varies from massively hypersonic plus to relativistic speeds. Now, as seen multiple times in the series, dragon level monsters are not only superior in strength but also in speed, shown perfectly with Sonic reacting to Hellfire Flame and Gale Wind in their base mode but got completely blessed by their monster forms. Most of the dragon level monsters in a low ball estimation can react and move at relativistic to light speed levels, with the high tier speedsters in the dragon level category easily reaching faster than light plus and can go even beyond. This isn't even accounting for the light speed meta of the demon level monsters that should put these dragons way faster. But nonetheless, when it comes to endurance and stamina, these monsters has never shown any type of declining, with the only exception being maybe Carnage Kabuto, who assumably got tired after a week in the audiobook. Some monsters can regenerate and evolve in a fast rate. And with all of this being said, can the king of all monsters be classified as a strong being in the One Punch Man verse? Now, Ryomen Sukuna would obviously fit perfectly in the One Punch Man verse. His drive and determination to become the pinnacle of strength would allow him to evolve drastically. But if Sukuna as a monster starts getting the attention of the Hero Association, what threat level would he be eventually? You see, if you want to include Mahoraga in this equation and just be generous and say he's at full power with using the 10 Shadows techniques, having possession to many Shikigamis such as Noes, the Divine Dogs, or the combination of many, then Sukuna, when accounting for the realistic meta of the Jujutsu Kaisen verse, should only be on par with demon level monsters in terms of strength, but still vastly inferior in the speed department. Hypersonic to hypersonic plus speeds would definitely not cut it against monsters that has many crazy valid feats, arguing that Mahoraga at the end of the day would be able to adapt to such speed and basically carry Sukuna to victory should be baseless, since we have no factual evidence to support that he would be able to evolve that quickly, especially considering the absurdity of that gap. Characters such as the Deep Sea King would also efficiently be able to quickly regenerate from the series of slashes performed even inside Sukuna's domain, and I highly doubt even the Divine Flame would be able to do the job, considering how the Deep Sea King tanked Genos' Incinerate despite being his natural weakness. However, not every demon or monster has the ability ability to regenerate, so it's safe to assume some would be hurt at some extent with having the obvious option of perception blitzing Sukuna immediately. Sukuna's win condition in this realistic meta would be either by using his word slash to bypass their durability before they have a chance to attack, or catch them off guard by pretending he can't regenerate only to perform his overpowered technique. Although catching a demon level monster off guard seems to be something hard to believe if not possessing superior physical stats, since the Deep Seeking was able to sense Stinger from a few blocks away. However, when choosing to ignore multiple factors and straight up put Sukuna at like Einen level of AP and massively hypersonic plus to relativistic speeds, then obviously demon level monsters with or without Mahuraga would certainly not be able to contend with him. Sure, they can certainly tank many of his slashes, since I don't think they scale to his maximum AP, but at the end of the day, he does have the speed and the potency to annihilate every single demon. However, dragon level monsters on the other hand are a totally different story. Do I think he has a chance against many dragons? Sure, of course. I can see him defeating many characters such as Ginzinrat, Withersprout, the Forest King, Gums, and many more. I'd also argue that he would be able to defeat top tier characters that cannot regenerate with his word slash if they are not careful enough. That's obviously with using the 10 Shadows Shikigami to act as a distraction to accomplish that task. Homeless Emperor, despite possessing casual destructive power equal to that of Sukuna's, would sadly be killed if Sukuna uses his domain expansion with one single sure hit slash. Although the dragon level monsters should be significantly faster than Sukuna even when using his ranked lightspeed meta, so most monsters would be able to blitz him before he has a chance to do anything if they chose to. Homeless Emperor, as I said, would be killed easily by a domain expansion, but that's only granted he wouldn't spam Sukuna, Mahuraga, and Agito with his spherical beams same way he did to Vomited Fuhrer Ugly. Black S would be a legit nightmare to Sukuna, since each slash would only result in spitting him up same way it happened with Atomic Samurai. His Tsunami has a wider range than 200 kilometers, and to simply think that Sukuna can get rid of 53 trillion cells before he gets depleted would be such a big bold statement. Any other top tier character would completely crush Sukuna for displaying superiority in both attack potency and speed, with Sukuna's only win con, as I said, is hoping for the word slash to land on any of these monsters. So at the end of the day, Sukuna can technically contend with some dragons, but gets completely humbled when trying to climb the ladder. Leading to the last section of this video, completely wanking Sukuna to planetary, he'd still be vastly inferior in the speed department. And many characters, and I'm saying many, with consecutive non-stop light speed hits would cripple him eventually. These characters are obviously the top dogs of the dragon level category, such as Orochi, Psycho Orochi, Platinum S, Garu, and Boros, who should be a god level threat. And even if you argue that Sukuna being planetary would be able to damage all of these characters, he'd still be considerably slower than any of these characters, so the chances of them winning and completely crippling him is much higher than his. So to sum up this whole video, Sukuna realistically would be a demon level monster, but if you want to include the other illogical metas, he would be able to contend with dragon level monsters at some extent.